So now just giving space to the concept of space. I was wondering what happens if we consider a triad of time, energy and space as being important constructs in both leadership and also in coaching, and my interest here is in senior leaders. And do we give sufficient attention to the concept of space? So today I only have questions and curiosity. I have no answers. Typical of the coach, but I have no answers. I've not yet written the book on space exploration as a coaching modality, but space became an important context for me as I continued to explore systemic approaches to coaching, and Leading Well is a collective of systemic coaches. And there's important human systemic principles of belonging, an order, and exchange. I've also provided workshops in another context on time and productivity management. And sometimes I've wondered, why am I spending so much time telling people about time management? I also have an interest in teams and the collective consciousness that they can bring. So there's something about a team when it really connects together, it gives itself space to explore. Presence has become a very common term in coaching. And indeed, probably a lot of us say, oh yes, you must be present for, the people around you, for example, without really exploring what does that presence mean. And indeed, the underlying concept of presence is offering people space and connection. My LinkedIn profile theme, as I was really thinking about space, my profile theme is offering safe and creative space and time to talk, feel, sense and think. So with some training in organisational constellations, or to demystify that word constellations, it's really about spatial mapping and sensing. I've started getting more and more curious about this triad of time, energy and space, and my relationship with them, my clients' relationship with them, and the connection between them. So what I'm asking you to do today is simply to explore space with me as a concept, and hopefully it might deepen your coaching conversations with senior leaders, or indeed with anybody. And I'm going to use some spatial mapping to encourage your individual experiences of your connection with the concept of space. So today, I want to allow you the space to explore three things. One is your language around time, energy and space, because those words can mean a lot of different things to different people. So your language, your relationship to time, energy and space, and how you could use these constructs in your coaching conversations with your clients. So firstly, let's explore our language around time, space and energy, because words do mean different things to different people. And so let's be a bit curious about what do we mean around time, energy and space. So I'll just give you a few little diagrams. And if you're interested to know, this is a program called Mural, which is basically an enormous screen that you can, add different elements to. So, here are some images around time: clocks, to-do lists, calendars, diaries, time as far as seasons go, so winter, spring, fall, summer and autumn. And then time as far as time from a sports coaching sense, where this person's blowing a whistle. So there's some visual concepts around time that I want you to explore. As far as energy goes, we've got someone that's jumping in the air, we've got a light globe, we've got lightning, we've got someone releasing some sparks of energy that may conjure up some images for you about energy. And from a space point of view, we're all on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, other platforms. There's that typical thinking around space being the stars and the universe and the moon and the planets. There's also a reflective type of space. There's a connection between people type of space. There's the classic symbol of undivided attention or listening with ears, eyes and heart. There's a reflective space with another person, particularly a child. There's that open expansion sort of space concept. There's the opening of windows and doors. And then there's things like boundaries and silos that we find ourselves in. So they're all space type of images just to start you thinking. And what I'd like you to do is just quietly by yourself, and then we'll split into chat rooms, but quietly by yourself, just have a think about, just do a brainstorm on your language about time, energy and space as separate concepts. What are the words that come up for you when you think about time, energy and space? So I'll give you a few minutes. It's 3:13 so I'll give you 5 minutes and then I'll put you into breakout rooms to discuss those. Over to you, personal reflection time. So I'll now put you into breakout rooms. So I just want you to think about your language of space, be as explorative and as curious as you want to be as far as your language around time, energy and space. And so just to, I'll split you up into groups of 2, there's one group of 3, just to talk around what are some of the words that you use or think about when you're thinking about time, when you're thinking about energy and when you're thinking about space. You can apply it to your own personal situation or in a coaching context, whatever comes up, because I want to learn from this as well. I want to see how people are thinking about these concepts. And interestingly, in the chat, space is something that's not really talked about very much as a concept, although we talk about it all the time because we talk about coaching conversations opening up. We talk about spaciousness, as someone's mentioned. We talk about presence. They're all sort of elements of space. So into breakout rooms for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see, we'll develop a list of words. That's what I want to do at this, develop a list of words. Enjoy. Everybody usually complains that they never have long enough in chat rooms, so I actually gave you 10 minutes rather than 5 minutes. Well, welcome back, everybody. I was saying to the first group that came back that people say that they never have enough time in breakout rooms, and so I actually gave you 10 minutes rather than 5 minutes. So I'm really interested to hear just a few words that people have, and let's start with time. So I've recorded down some words there around time: seconds, minutes, hours, clocks, watches, seasons, diary, planning, to-do list, past, now and future, finite. And then we'll also play around with what are some of the verbs that we use around time. So we don't have enough of it, we're wasting time, those types of things. So anybody just prefer you to just come off mute and say a few words and I'll type them in. Just around time at this stage.
I'll share linear and non-linear.
Yep.
Relative to culture. The approach to time. Mm-hmm.
Irreversible.
I'm sorry, what was that been do?
Irreversible.
Irreversible.
For my part is present and here and now.
Here and now.
I share one, Tim, that Udi gave me. We had a wonderful conversation, and I said finite that you've got in the list, but he said timeless. So it's almost infinite.
Ah.
There's an interesting angle on it. Yeah.
Some more words on time.
Time pressure.
Pressure. Yep. Good. Righty-ho, let's not, we spend so much time worrying about time. Let's move on. So I'm going to throw some words up about energy, high, low, intention, emotion. Energy in motion is sometimes a description for emotion, well-being, enthusiasm, motivation, purpose. And verbs, we have energy or we don't have energy. So please contribute to that list. I just put those there as starters. What are some energy words that came up with?
Positive versus negative.
Yep, great.
Full versus empty.
We had balance.
Also alignment.
Yep. I'm sure those that are in the UK or Europe at the moment are feeling a little less energy because it's, what would it be, 4:30 in the morning.
Consistency is one thing else. Like the same person may be energetic one day and not the other. So inconsistent or consistent.
So sort of variable as well. Yep.
We had also too much, too less.
Too much, too less.
Passion.
Action.
Passion. PA.
Oh, passion. Passion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Intensity and involvement.
And we had also priorities in a sense, where do we put our energy?
Yep. Great. So there are a few energy words. So let's move on to space. Oops, where's my space, people? There. All right. Just some words, not necessarily my words, but inner, personal, interpersonal, outer, shared, and then some very interesting words around place, direction, distance, infinite, connection, focus and boundaries, and then some verbs around creating, giving, using, needing, opening space. So over to you. You're the experts. I've just put some words up there that I've thought of.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Kate.
I will show word empty.
Empty?
Yeah.
Very good. And Uda?
Yeah, Chris and I had a common description of expansiveness, the concept of expansiveness. Yeah.
Moldable.
Safe.
Safe. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Bindu.
How about silence?
Silence, yeah.
Yeah.
How about invitation to creativity or expression?
And then allowing and respect.
Yep, I'll just put allowing down in the verbs and respect.
Related to the earlier one, Tim, invitational. Could be reciprocal as well.
Yep.
Room to grow.
Room to grow. Excellent. So, there's some words. I'm sure more will come to you, but I think you see that, maybe you're getting a feeling that there's a lot here in this space of space to consider, and something that I think we don't explore enough in coaching. So the next thing I want to do is to move on to your relationship with space, your personal relationship with space. So once again, there'll be personal reflection, and then I'll have a think about whether I think it's good to go into groups or not. But what I want you to do is to do some spatial work. The first thing to do is to write down me, or your name, or I, or however you want to have it on a Post-it note, which is yourself. And then I want you to bring in each of the elements separately. So bring them in order of time, and then energy and space. So put them on a table in front of you. I don't know how many of you have done constellation work like this, but it's a really good method of sensing into an issue, something that you're dealing with, and you can do it very simply with Post-it notes or pieces of paper. So some people like doing it on their desktop. Other people actually like putting it down on the floor and standing on one of them and looking at the other. So you can do it either way. But bring one in and just see, where do you position so bring time in first as a Post-it note, and just see, where do you position yourself in relation to time? And then there's some other questions that you can ponder around, how do you feel your relationship to time is? When you look towards time, do you feel bigger or smaller? So is it something that is really big for you and you're feeling quite small, or are you feeling quite big when you are looking at time? And then as you bring the other ones in, to then sense, so do the same thing for energy, is to sense where do you stand in relation to energy, and then where do you stand in relation to space. Have a look at bigness and smallness, those types of things. And then have a look at the three of them with you facing them to see where you position yourself with them. So this is just simply exploring, not with a client, but exploring your relationship to these three concepts. So how do I feel about time? How do I feel about energy? How do I feel about space? Right here, right now, in the moment, so to speak. So I'll let you do that, and then I'll suggest some other questions. So just personal reflection with some Post-it notes or some pieces of paper with 4 pieces of paper with those things written on them. So approach time first, then do energy, then do space. No right or wrong answers about this. It's just how you sense when you're moving between them and moving around them. 5 minutes on that. So when you get to a stage where you're looking at the three of them sort of together, think about where do you place yourself in relation to them, and do you need to move them around? For example, are they like this with you in the middle? Or are they in an order where you're maybe, you're in front of or behind time, which is behind energy, which is behind space. So how are you placing yourself in your relationship with the three of them now together? Really use your whole body to sense into your relationship with these three concepts, rather than thinking about it, sense about it. So I'd just be interested to know what's coming up for just some of you around that exercise and what you've been able to sense about the relationship between you and the three of them. Is anybody willing to show to the group what's come up for you?
Yeah, my relationship with time, I'm smaller than time. And also I'm smaller than energy. I'm smaller also than space. And then if I put it together, time, energy, and space put together, with then I will be in the middle. So it's me there. I'm exist because of time, energy, and space.
So it looks sort of something like that.
Actually, I just make it collapse. I mean, energy and time put together, and then they are intersection like that.
So is that, just tell me if I'm doing this sort of right? Is that sort of right?
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
And space is going also to myself there. It's
okay.
touching the yellow box there.
Yeah. And there, you're feeling small.
Yeah, I'm feeling small. Yes.
Something like that. Yeah, good. For those that may not know, constellation work, if you're working with a client to do this, what you can say is this is a clock face. And so Danny, I could have asked Danny, so energy's at about 2 o'clock and space is about 6 o'clock and time's about 10 o'clock. That's the way that you can put on screen what they may be having on paper in front of them. How about for someone else? What does that look like?
May I go next?
Yes, Bindu.
Okay. So I see myself as this square, which is me, and my energy, which is a very tiny circle inside me. It's smaller than me, which then so this me and my energy occupies a very small space within a very large space, which is the universe. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah. So this me sits inside a very large space. Yeah. Large space and time, what do you call, in the intersection, similar size time and space. So in that intersection, I'm sitting in this square, which is potential, but my energy doesn't permit me to achieve my full potential.
So sort of something like that.
Yeah. What face is this?
Okay, good.
I'm happy to go, Tim.
Catherine, sure.
So sort of me in the middle, and I've got time on my, what would be 9 o'clock, same size. It's not, same size as me and almost adjacent. Then I've got energy beneath me. It's a little bit further away than that. Yep. And then space up to the right. So sort of, yep. And it's bigger than that.
Oh.
And tiny bit further away. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more if I'm able to ask you that question, Catherine.
So I'm actually very comfortable in my relationship with time, and I feel sorted by it. I sit on my energy, and when it's high, I'm high, and when it's not, I'm not. But it's the foundation of what goes on. Space, interesting, it's not around me, it's actually distant to me, which surprised me. And it's not that I'm uncomfortable with it, it's just that it's big.
Is there anything you want to say to any of those?
Probably I'd like my energy to be bigger than it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's smaller than me, and I wish it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
Okay. Anything around space and the is there any movement you want in as far as the relationship between you and space?
I probably want it closer. It was interesting because it wasn't uncomfortable, but it just seems far away. So, and it's one of the biggest tools of my trade. So yes, I actually want to move it closer to me.
Closer. And when you talk about space, what are the terms that what's the language that you're thinking about? Is it your space? Is it,
certainly,
you know?
It differs depending on the situation. So as a coach, it's creating a safe space, a room to grow space, a reflective space, a challenge space. So it changes a lot. For me, it's probably more relational than personal. So I think my personal space feels fine, but I'm an introvert, so sometimes not enough space.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah, probably a little bit closer is I want to move it.
Yeah. So it's sort of going like that. Yeah. One other person who's willing to explore a little bit deeper about the space element. Anybody else want to explain their relationship between these three?
I can do it. My space was around me and within me, and huge, endless, inner space and outer space.
Oh, so
like universe and the inner space.
Right.
And it's one space, like jar of water in the water, full of the water.
Yeah. That's challenging how I would draw that, but yeah. And what about time and energy? Where are they?
Yeah, time. Time was in front of my eyes, like left and right expanding, like I can see it. I can go into it in the moment, but I can go out and see it in front of my eyes.
Right.
Mostly I'm looking at it, not very distant, but in front of me. Now, when you're drawing, the front of me would be down. If my eyes are looking, let's say, down.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And then the energy was on my pushing on my back like a rocket. Like it was, it was literally like a rocket. It's little, let's say it's half on me and a little bit behind me. So it should be then more up. If you are now, if me is looking to time, then on my back is the energy.
Yep. Okay. So.
And I realized that energy is actually. I have the access to that unlimited energy, but still some smaller amount is pushing on my back. Not all of that. I would like to change that, but this is how I visualized it.
Yeah. And so you talk about space within you and space, very wide. How do you work to get that inner space? How, where do you go for it? That those sort of concepts.
I go for that concept into the reflective practice and meditation, and also working with a client, trying. This is from the psychotherapy training, also trying to be in and out all the time, like observing inner processes and being in the contact with the client, but being in the contact with the inner world. And when I sit for meditation and when I'm really comfortably motionless, then that space is just a huge inner space. of space of our consciousness or something like that.
And how do you enable others to get their space?
It starts from relaxing the body, then observing the breath, and then observing the thoughts. When we are mindful observant, then somehow you are in connection with that.
Is there something in the space that is hidden from you? Or are there barriers to you getting to that inner space?
I don't think that anything is hidden, but actually that space is like huge. You can always go, I can always go further and further. Like if you are in, so there are some things I don't see because they are far, but I don't think it's hidden.
Yeah. So it can be an ever increasing space.
Exactly.
But it's not hidden. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, thank you, Vedrana, for that. Thank you for allowing us into your space, your inner space. I don't, it's just an example of, I see the potential for working with this, particularly with people who who haven't considered space as being an important element of their life. Note to self, next time you do this, do a mindfulness exercise at the start, which I missed out on doing, and I probably should have, to get us all into a better space. So that's a note to myself. The other way that I see this working as well is when we apply it to an issue and to explore with clients, with a particular issue where they are. Let's move a client in now and think about an issue that a client may have as far as going through, how much time are they giving this issue? How much energy are they giving this issue? How much space are they giving this issue? So that would be another way of, of using this in practice. So has anybody got a particular issue that they'd like to explore with this? We talk about people being stuck, and being stuck is certainly a space issue, as well, I suppose, as an energy issue. But stuckness may be, clients can be stuck in a particular space. So I suppose what we can, without a particular issue, the sorts of, if you want to explore space a little bit more, the types of questions that you can ask around space is, what space am I giving it? Is it big? Is it small? Do I have a sense that this issue is fixed, or is it moving? So it's about that issue within a space. Does it have borders? What are the openings? So you can explore an issue from a space dimension. Is it sharp or soft? Some people may have a concept about that issue from a spatial point of view. And if you had an infinite and open space for that issue, what might result as a what might result what could result if it was given an open and unlimited space? So just wanted to, this is the start of some thinking for me and hopefully others around how you could use space. It's something we try and offer up to people, and we may be able to, explore it further. So I wonder, thank you first for allowing me into your space. I wonder, has this helped in some way in your relationship to space, or how you might use this with a client? So anybody want to, so just open up the discussion for any questions or thoughts or comments you might have around space.
I have a client who's in a very, very fast growing company, and there's a lot of burnout and a ton of overwhelm and pressure. And so I'm thinking that doing something like this to talk about what their concept of space feels like now and how they would want it to feel if it were better and so forth could be very useful. Yeah.
I like just one thing that I hadn't mentioned is that I like Stephen Covey's concept of a number of decades ago about circles of control, influence, and concern. And it's really interesting when you reflect on we absolutely have no control over time. We can allocate time to something, but we have no control over it. But we do have control over the energy and the space we give it. And I think thinking in those terms for a client might be useful as well, is, because so you can prioritise from a time point of view, but then you also need to give that what you've prioritised as important and urgent. You need to give that energy and space. And without both of those, it doesn't matter how much time you give it. So yeah, I think in those, the burnout is related to energy. They feel that they're busy and they don't have any time. And once you explore that dimension of space, it might open things up. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
It's really interesting. Thank you very much.
I just want to ask, what are the telltale signs or symptoms when somebody does not have space and is not self-aware enough to know that they don't have the space?
A very good question for the group. I'm not going to answer it. I don't have the answers. So anybody else? How do you enable a person to start thinking about space?
One word jumping up is leading. When I feel I'm leading the coaching session, I can feel I'm pushing, something like that. So yeah, it makes me to aware whether I keep enough space for the client.
So when you are giving enough space, you're allowing the client to find their own space?
If I may?
Sure, Jenna.
It's coming to me that I would maybe ask the client or engage with the client in an imagination exercise, imagining what it would feel like to be in a spacious moment, be in an empty dance studio, or on skis coming down an empty slope or whatever, and to see what that evokes, not only emotionally, somatically. I think that sort of work can be powerful sometimes.
So to explore a metaphor, their own metaphor with them, as far as what would that look like if they had enough space to consider an issue?
I think that it can be really empowering to imagine having that thing that we perceive ourselves to not to have, if that's grammatical. I don't even know how to say that. We perceive that we don't have it.
Yeah. And then what you're doing is opening up the space for people. You're allowing them to see the possibility. But,
right. I think it can be powerful.
So please, any other comments from people around space?
I'm thinking more of a possibly cognitive way, and I really like the way you talked about the relationship with space. So I think there's a dependency. When someone wants to deal with space, perhaps that if we can bring that person into looking at his or her relationship with space first, and that will then help the individual define what is space. If we can reach the second space or the second period, then perhaps as a duo or perhaps even a triad, we might be ready to talk about the relationship with space and how that might affect. I don't know if that's your thing, but that's what popped in my head.
So I'm seeing that, you know, time is something people can understand. Energy, they can start, you know, depending on what stage of development they're at, they can start to understand energy and the importance of well-being and all the things that contribute to energy. And they may not have any concept of space. We have a concept of space because we're coaches. we're offering safe and spaces to be creative, and so we're in we can be in a very different mindset. But it's progressing that conversation, and sometimes people being focused on pieces of paper or post-it notes, or it could be a mobile phone and a ball or whatever that they've got in front of them, to imagine that is some space, and to imagine time and energy may really get them to sense into that concept of space. But just as we've started this conversation, and for those that haven't thought about space before, you may just plant a seed, a kernel, around space for them to think about how much, as Jeff said, their relationship to space. And that may be something that just grows within them as they go along. And then in future conversations, of course, you'll come back to that, how's the space thing going? To remind them that it's not all about managing time, and it's not all about managing energy. So thanks, Jeff, for that. Any other comments?
So one idea jumping up when Jeffrey shared about this concept, a question arising is the space for what? For the head working, for the analysis, or for the body intelligence? The reason I asking this question is because I remember one of my supervision session, the supervisee are stuck in her analyze, lot of the head working. Yeah. So when I noticing she cannot, just sit very stable, I want to move, so I inviting her to dance. Any moment with the body, then I follow her. So it's, the result is amazing.
Yes, and thank you, Heian. That it's really good to remember that what I did in this exercise was a space exercise, and movement is also a space exercise. And there are people, I'm sure, better than me in somatic coaching, and also one thing that I've used is, okay, so you're sitting there in this space. Now imagine, not imagine, move over there to another space where everything's possible. And what happens when you're there? So using spatial exercises for them to appreciate space can be very powerful, and it does get them out of the analytical mind as well. So yeah, thank you for that. That's great. How might you use it in your coaching?
I was just going to suggest about creating a space was an exercise that I did recently on creativity. We were told, it was a group session, so we were told to change something on our desk. So we change our space around us, especially on Zoom, because we sit in the same place, we sit in the same desk, same background. Change something on your desk, take a photograph it, show it to the group. And I think we could do that as individuals as well. In coaching is also just to change, if you can't move, just change your desk completely and change your space And I think that also brings in to the point that you're not worried about what's sitting there or there, and just focus on what's around you, your head, your body, in that clean space. So I find that very powerful. I ended up dumping everything in my drawer beside me, but it did enable me to have that clear canvas to create from.
We're using space in order to coach. I hadn't thought about that when we were talking about the concepts of space with clients, but yes, there's a use of space in order to coach. So thank you. Look, that's all I had today. Just to introduce or to re-energise your thoughts about space and whether it's a useful concept for you to provide to your clients and to provide to yourself, because I think a lot of us do get tied down and get busy with time and managing time. We are usually, as coaches, aware of the importance of managing energy and well-being. And then, this is another concept, and I'm sure I certainly try and deal in threes, and so that's why I came up with this triad of space. I can't remember things more than having three concepts in my head, so I just thought that space was that missing element from the time and energy dynamic, and exploring our relationship with space. And now what's come out of this conversation, using space as an element in coaching, sounds like it can be particularly powerful and something that we can play with and imagine how we could use it in future clients. So thank you. That ends the session. Happy to stay on and talk about this until 4:30. And hopefully it's re-energised you and given you some space. Thanks very much.